back to another episode of the Big Ass Cornhole Podcast. Sean and Dane are with you once again.
What's up?
What's going on, guys? Dane, what's going on, man?
Oh, got to play a little bit of cornhole yesterday. Feeling frisky.
You're looking sharp.
I am looking damn sexy. Got our new big ass jerseys in here. Yee.
We were just talking about the quality of the jersey.
Dude, my God.
If you want to look as good as us, I'm going to attach the link in the show notes, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the comment section where you can go and order your own Big Ass Cornhole jersey. It's like $35, $32 plus shipping. You're not going to find a better deal. It's great quality. So again, join the Big Ass Cornhole crew, grab your jersey, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Instinct Sports.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, before we do anything, okay, we obviously have a tradition, a long-standing tradition, if you would. All right. So before we go any further, we're both thirsty. Okay. So Dane, do what you do. Tell the folks what we're sipping on tonight in a segment we call "What You Drinking."
What you drinking?
Well, Shenene, we're sipping on Little Mad Tree Summer Camp Hazy IPA.
I love a good hazy IPA.
Hell yeah! And honestly, Mad Tree is a great brewery. Oh man, that is good. 7%.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean
that's why I like it.
Yeah, that's 7%.
It's not messing around.
It has this little thing on here. Tap in. Summer camp flies by, but the memories last forever.
It's beautiful.
Just like Big Ass Cornhole Podcast.
It really is.
And what you drinking? It was brought to us by Colorado Cornhole Connection.
Always.
Coming out with some of the sexiest boards you'll ever see. I mean, we just got a random set. I threw out of the other day. They're so awesome.
I felt like I had to share. I got the first set from them. Don was nice enough to surprise us with another set. I asked Dane if he wanted it. He said yes, so I gave it to him.
Yeah, so. I mean, I had to oblige. I mean, what else were we going to do? Give Sean another set of boards? He's already got like 5. But yeah, quality is there.
Yeah. So seriously, if you're looking for the highest quality boards, go to Colorado Cornhole Connection. They can even save some money if they use our discount code.
If you go to iHeartCornhole.com, use code BIGASS10. It'll get you 10% off.
All right. Well, Cornhole family, we have another excellent episode planned for you all today. We are going to touch on the Pro Shootout event that's happening this weekend in Austin, Texas. And we obviously have some bags to review. Up today are 3 new series of bags by one of our favorite people, or one of our favorite companies, Russell Post and Notorious Bags.
Heck yeah.
And then we're going to be joined by the ACL commissioner himself, Mr. Stacey Moore. So it should be a fun episode.
Meeting number 2.
We're going to go through listener questions. We have our own stuff to kind of go with, but it's going to be a pretty good time. But before we go through all that, we're going to bring you what's going on in our cornhole lives in a segment we call In and Around the Hole.
Brought to you by our friends at Airwolf Athletics. If you want to look sexy from the head to your toes, you got to start at the top. Go buy a hat, airwolfathletics.com. Use code BIGASS to get yourself 10% off.
At this point in your cornhole life, if you haven't added a set of the sexiest bags around, you're doing something wrong. That's right, folks. Blackjack Cornhole bags. You get free shipping, amazing customer service. It's really a no-brainer. Visit blackjackcornhole.com and grab yours today. Code BIGASP will save you 10%.
I was grabbing them.
Boom. All right, so I know you just got a chance to throw, so
I did.
Fill the people in on where you threw and how you did and all that stuff.
So I was King Seat Cornhole's inaugural summer league launch. I guess it's a Switcholio league, which is a lot of fun. I love Switcholio. It's a totally different format. If you've never played it, you get a different partner every round, and then whoever has the most points at the end wins it all.
Nice. Okay.
And I ended up having a nice day of throwing. Ended up 5th. And I mean, it was a heck of a night, man. I didn't lose.
A lot of talent.
Yeah, I didn't lose, but I still didn't take first. But threw really well. I felt like 95% of the scoring was done by me across the board. So
what bags did you throw?
We threw tangos.
Okay.
And I honestly made every partner I had throw a tangos because only 3 of them really threw a lot of bags.
Okay.
And then I had 3 partners that didn't throw that often. So I figured carpet was a good thing for him.
Okay.
And yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Did they ask you first, like, hey, what do you like to throw? And you're like, yeah, I like to throw these.
The guys that like didn't play that often, they didn't even have bags.
Okay.
So they just were throwing whatever everyone else had. So that worked out well. And the tangos were working, man. Those things, they are so melty.
Are they becoming one of your favorites?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely getting there, yeah.
And again, for all you, like if you're real familiar with the BG bags, and like a mercenary, the Tango is essentially...
It's a fuller mercenary.
Correct. I mean, It's got like a Viper slick side with the same carpet that's on a Viking and a mercenary. It's a little bit fuller. It is a fuller bag, but as it breaks down, it becomes very hole friendly. So
yeah, I like it because I think it's a universal good bag because you can just flip it over that slick side, and we know what that Viper side does. And the carpet is BG carpet, so it's best of both worlds. And yeah, it was a fun day, and wind was whipping, but those bags just cut right through like butter.
Yep. So this week I pretty much just kind of tested out some bags. I threw a lot of the Notorious bags that are in front of us, all three, just to get a good sense of how they played and how fast they were going to break down. I can't remember, one night last week, the kids went to bed relatively early and it was still light out. So I went out and on the Dogcast, they were talking about the new Ghost Holio stuff on Score Holio. So I went out and tried that. I think I did the hard level. It was like the 7, 8, 9, or maybe I don't remember what level it was, but it was the one where 7, 8, 9. Did pretty well in that. I think I won like 21-5 or something.
Yeah,
so
that isn't hard, like just 10, 11, 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember if that's like the medium and then it's hard, or
I think
if
they
it's
were
like
saying that they need
like,
I think the Dogcast was talking about like they need a medium level.
I would have liked if everyone...
They need a 7 through 12, I think.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I would have liked if every once in a while there was a 12 or a 10 thrown in there, but...
And I get they have the Ben one.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe they just need like a different version of that that's just like a little bit more difficult.
It was still, overall, it was still nice to just go out and throw against like an opponent. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a cool. I love the concept of it.
I like the fact that I knew what the ghost scored before I was throwing it, because then
that's what I was gonna ask.
Put a little pressure on me, like, hey, if they scored a 9, like you got to put. Let's get at least 10 here.
Yeah, I didn't know if like when you entered your score it would say what the ghost had. But I like that though, that it tells you beforehand.
Before you start off round 1, it tells you what they scored, and then as you enter, then the next round comes up.
Okay.
I also did one of their Skull Holio Decker rounds. I shot a 96, so I thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
Actually threw the new 724 bags, the WMD.
Oh yeah, I knew you'd like that bag.
Damn!
Right out of the box, you were throwing fire with that thing.
It's like a bigger OG Viper without dots.
Yeah.
It just glides, and it's a big bag too, so it just tends to just catch the hole.
Yeah, it just catches it.
So I figured normally I play with a really, really slick bag. The slower side I think does play a little bit slower than what a Viper used to. Especially in humidity, and it was a little humid, but it was perfect because I could be a little aggressive throwing it.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I mean, everything that comes out of 724 bags, it's
always money.
It just seems like every time he comes out with a bag, it's like my new favorite.
Yeah. Well, I think every bag you get
surprise.
is your new favorite.
Okay, so what we wanted to do first is there is another ACL Pro Shootout coming up this weekend. Now, if you're listening to us for the first time and you're like, what's this ACL Pro Shootout? It's an event that's only open to pro players in the ACL. And they can pair up with any other pro that they want. And in this event, these qualifier events, there's no money necessarily involved. But if you win the event, there's going to be 8 winners in doubles, men's singles, and women's singles. Those 8 winners at the end of the season are going to compete for, I think it's $50,000.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge payout.
It's a really good payout.
I think it's $50,000 for doubles and 20 for singles. I think
something like that. Yeah,
it's a big payout.
I don't remember the exact amount, but it's a good dollar amount. So these pro players are competing. The nice thing is they do rounders at first, to determine the seeding. And then after the rounders, it's single elimination, round limited. I think they play to 10 rounds.
12.
Is it 12?
12 rounds, yeah.
So they play a limited round amount, so if it's 12, whatever it is, which definitely puts a unique dynamic on the game.
No, absolutely.
Trey Birchfield arguably is the best player in the planet right now.
He hasn't qualified yet.
He hasn't qualified yet. I think it's because they're round limited, because there are games where he might fall behind, and if you're round limited, you can just play safe and put bags in the hole, and you can outlast somebody through 10 rounds.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to go through this week in Austin, Texas, what big teams are going to be there, who we expect to do well, and who we would be very surprised if they didn't qualify at the very end. So let's go ahead and recap who has already qualified for the finals. In singles, we have Brett Guy, Jamie Graham, Damon Dennis. That's right there, stacked.
Says enough.
I mean, right, it's ridiculous. Doubles, we have Gustafson and Bernasette, Harbaugh and Cobb, Guy and Graham. Right off the bat, we have 2 of the top 4 teams already qualified. At the last pro shootout, Guy and Graham beat Hissner and Henderson, who was the 3rd ranked team.
And notable, it's Matt Guy and
correct.
Graham.
Yes, Matt Guy. Yes, correct. In women's singles, we have Sam Finley, we have Lori Dool, and Cheyenne Renner, who have qualified so far. So,
which, I mean, those three doesn't surprise me at all.
Cheyenne Renner, the best women's player in the world, in your mind?
I don't know, man. That's tough because, I mean, I've seen what Allison Peters has done. I mean, she hasn't, like, the last couple tournaments haven't been great, but her start of the season was outrageous. I mean,
Allison Peters needs to get over the hump.
Yes, she does. I think just out of sheer accolades right now, I would give it to Renner.
Cheyenne Renner to me
but
right now.
I think another one to watch out for is Kaylee Hunter too.
No, she's very. I think again, she's very, probably a year away. Yeah. Cheyenne Renner has that pro experience, 1+ year on her. So, but Hunter is a phenomenal player as well. But I just think right now, if you're giving me any female to pick against the field, I'm going Cheyenne Renner.
That's good for you.
Okay, so let's go over. Let's go over some top teams that are competing in the weekend's Pro Shootout. We have, again, this doesn't have to be their pro partner that they're playing with during the regular season. This can be a mix and match, and this is what makes it the Pro Shootout kind of fun. The first one is going to be Birchfield and Tony Smith, which is a super interesting team.
Yes.
I know that they travel a lot together.
Well, especially what they just did at the Open. That was the Open. Yeah.
Correct. So they're coming off of a big win against another big name team, Humans and Wooten.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
But again, it's round limited. So this round limited can kind of go anyway. You have Windsor and Jeff Reynolds.
Which
that is an interesting pair.
Is a very good pair too because Jeff's been slinging. And
I think Ryan Windsor
just catches fire.
Ryan Windsor's he hasn't been like the Ryan Windsor of old. I don't know if he's still battling the injury or if just the talent pool is just that much more difficult now.
He also might. I mean, he has a life too, so maybe he just isn't able to practice as often.
So
too,
there's a whole bunch of different characters, things that can go into it. But I wouldn't be surprised again if Jeff Reynolds, Ryan Windsor made a little bit of a run.
Jeff seems very similar to like what Isidro is, which is just a calm, cool, collected player at the opposite end.
Yeah.
But we know Jeff can get frustrated and stuff, but he doesn't ever show it on the board, and I think maybe that could help Ryan in this one too.
I'll be interested to see what bags they throw. Will they throw Pro Advantage, which is typically what Windsor likes to throw?
Yeah.
Or are they going to throw the Patriot, which is
or will they throw the Windsor bags?
I don't even think Windsor throws the Windsor bags, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. The other team is Geary McGuffin. They're one of those teams that I think they're starting to heat up. Mm-hmm. They took second in the Pro Shootout last time. They're right there. Mm-hmm. They're a team that I don't think during the regular season at Nationals has quite lived up to their hype, but they're heating up at the right time. Yeah. They're last year's Team of the Year.
If you didn't see, you guys didn't see that are listening, he threw up some air quotes there.
But again, they're heating up at the right time. I would be surprised if by the end of all of this, they weren't one of the final 8 teams to qualify.
I agree. Because they're also, even if they don't make this one, they're a team that travels.
Yeah.
So they're gonna hit probably maybe even the last 4.
That's what I'm saying. And they're a team that's been there, done that. So again, it's very surprising with me. I'm not saying they're going to win this time, but by the end of it, by the time we get to those 8 teams, I would be a little bit surprised if they weren't one of the teams that made it.
Now the next one on the list, I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
And this is a team that I could see just running through it. It's Frank Modlin and Alan Rockwell.
Yep. Just
2 classic old school players, and they're gonna be tough to beat, man.
They are. They throw the same bag.
Yeah.
They both like throwing game changers. They both play a very similar game. They throw a higher bag. Mm-hmm. They don't do anything fancy. Air mails and slide down the middle. Very similar to like a Damon Dennis-esque type bag. Again, they're 2 savvy veteran players that they can win it. No one would be surprised. Yeah. Sometimes I think with players like... So Modlin is kind of like this household name because when the ACL was first coming up, he was partnered with Jamie Graham. He got a bunch of success, and early on, is the game moving past him? You know what I mean? Like, are guys like him gonna be looked at like?
I don't think at all. Look at Damon Dennis.
I'm not. Listen, I'm saying, but like a guy like Modlin, do you think that his best cornhole days, like he's already had them? Or it's not.
I think he's coming off of. Like, isn't he recovering right now from an injury?
He had a hip surgery.
So I think he'll get back to true form.
I'm not gonna lie. If I saw that Modlin and Rockwell won this in the field that we're talking about, I'm going to be a little surprised.
See, I wouldn't actually.
Only because of the season, how he's had up to this point. Now, obviously anyone can have a day, right? Anybody can open up, have a day.
Well, it's also, you could get a good draw too.
You could. Yeah, really, rounders is a big part of this.
Absolutely.
All right, so then I think this is a really interesting team. Jimmy Humans, who it doesn't seem to matter who he's partnered with. He just seems to keep finding the finals or the top 4. He's playing with Ashton Spees.
Dude, the kid just,
this is a team that if I was going to take, I don't even know, can you call them, I guess out of everybody, right? Because they haven't played together. If I was going to take a dark horse team, they might be that team that they would be like a Cobb Harbaugh, right? Mm-hmm. They don't normally play together, but maybe they find something that weekend and it clicks.
Well,
round limited stuff can get weird. Jimmy
Humans coming off of a good
tends to be very consistent, just down the middle, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. They might be a team that can make a splash. Yeah. We'll see. Zaft Hadley. They've been up and down, kind of all over the place. We know when they play their best.
I think it's really whichever Bill Hadley shows up is how they will perform, because Zaft has been very consistent.
Yeah, and that second national when they made their deep run, Hadley was arguably one of the best players of that weekend because he won senior singles. They did very well in doubles. He had a nice run in singles. Again, I think that's a good point. I think that whichever Hadley shows up,
I feel like Zaft's always in that like top 10.
Hadley cracks me up when you watch him because he's just rocking out he's rocking out to like the Beatles or the Beach Boys or like just toe tapping.
See, I was thinking maybe like Foreigner.
I would crack up though if we found out he was like toe tapping like some heavy death metal kind of stuff. Like I think that'd be great. I think
I nailed it with Flock of Seagulls.
A team that normally does not play together, but they have played together previously in the Erie Open and made a deep run, is Ryan Smith and Eric Anderson. They took 4th last time in the Erie Open that they played together. They gelled well together. They both like throwing BG bags. They're both super talented. Ryan Smith just keeps finding his way into like the top 3, top 4 of everything.
Yeah.
They were 1 or 2 bags away from the last Open for making it to the finals. Again, they're both crazy talented. If you showed me the results and like Ryan Smith and Eric Anderson won, okay, no surprise.
No surprise there.
No surprise.
We got a bunch of Texan boys.
Yeah. So I think this is where I think a home field advantage. Now, obviously, in other sports, it's going to matter. But do you think that there is something to, and at least in cornhole, to having some sort of like a home field advantage? Not having to travel, staying a little bit closer to home.
After just going to Erie, which is only an hour and a half drive from our house, but staying away from home and like being out in that atmosphere, being able to sleep in your own bed would have a huge advantage. I'm not sure if these guys can. I'm not sure how close they are to it.
I don't know. Obviously, Texas is a very big state.
Yeah. So I guess we'll find out. We'll have to ask.
I don't think they're that far out of Austin, though.
I want to say they aren't either, but I'm not 100%, so I don't want to project. But I think, yes, it's a huge advantage if you can just go home, decompress, and then come back and start fresh. Because me,
let me ask you this: round limited. If you had to pick one of these 2 teams to finish better, are you picking Gross and Sims, or are you picking Grindersleeve and Batson?
Gross Sims.
Me too.
Yeah.
I just think that they've been there, they've done that. Now Babson's crazy talented in a game to 21, and we're talking about it.
Round I might limited, take Grindersleeve. He can't afford to take those chances in round limited.
Especially with those roll top and flop players. If you're going to go for it and you miss one and you open it up, maybe that's that 1 point that you needed or you gave up and you just can't make it up later. Yeah. But I agree. Gross and Sims, and they've played together now for 2 seasons. This is their second full season together. Yeah. They're knocking on the door. I think the last time I checked, they're a top 10 doubles team.
We know what they can do.
Yeah.
They'll find it.
And I just
this
feel
could
like
be the one that doesn't.
If anyone wants to win these, right? You know, Gross and Sims have been circling this date. Mm-hmm. They want to win the Open. They want to win the shootout. They don't want anybody coming into their state and doing it. They're very proud. They want to show and they want to represent that like Texas has some of the best throwers in the game because, again, I think sometimes they get forgotten about. And Texas in general is having a very good season.
Yeah.
You have Batson and Grindersleeve who fell off a little bit in the first national but bounced back since then. You have Gross and Sims who are having obviously another solid season. You even have teams like Mr. Ghost Cornhole, right?
Bobby Fink.
Yep, Bobby Fink, Ernest Herrera, his partner.
Yeah.
They're both having a phenomenal season, very steady. And a lot of times people are going to be like, well, I haven't even heard of them. If you go back and look at the standings, they're right there. They're middle of the pack, but they're like one game away from really making that big jump.
Yeah.
But there's tons of talent coming out of there. So I'll be excited to see, but I do agree. I think Gross and Sims, if I had to make a pick between those two teams, I would probably pick them to probably make the next, to finish higher.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it to me has to do with the round limited.
Yep. The last team we had listed was Thorne and Wooten.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Hunter Thorne a little bit last week. He's super young, crazy talented. He hasn't yet shown up on... Yes, please. He hasn't quite yet shown up on... Do you see that? We don't even have to communicate. Yeah. Like, he just gives me a look. Getting another beer. I think playing with someone that he knows is better than him. Do you think that... let me ask you, as a player, would you rather play with someone that you know is better than you? Or would you rather be that better player?
I would rather...
Do you want the pressure on you, or would you rather be like...
I want the pressure on me.
Okay.
Because I feel like if I don't have the pressure on me, I get lax, and then I suck even worse.
Now, obviously, these are all pro players. On any given day,
yeah,
Thorne could be the better player, but across the board, if you're ranking players, Wooten's going to finish on top, above Thorne in any rankings.
Yeah.
99.9% of the time. I'll be interested to see if Thorne is nervous because he's playing with Wooten and he wants to help and he wants to live up to those expectations, because when you play with Wooten, you think you can win.
How old is Thorne? He's real young, isn't he?
I want to say like 17, 16, 17.
I love that Wooten goes in and like takes up these young bucks and all these things. Like it's really cool. So
and I'll just be interested to see how that dynamic was.
Yeah.
I know that I think they hang out quite a bit.
Yeah.
They travel around. But yeah, that's a team again. I would be a little surprised if they won it all. If they made the broadcast, I wouldn't be super surprised. But again, that would be a big step for Thorne to show that, hey, I belong on the stage. Mm-hmm. To me, he's very similar to like a Cobb situation.
Yeah.
I just think Cobb, to me, when I watch him play, just looks a little bit more polished. He's a little bit more consistent. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how it is. I mean, anything happen. Wooten could show up anywhere and win it. So,
yeah.
And he's just coming off of winning a singles championship for the Georgia State champions. Yeah. So anything can happen. So I'll be interested.
Does he get to go play in the Florida State championship too?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know like what the qualifications
I don't know. Yep. Okay, so let's say there's 5 spots left. All right.
Okay.
Who do you feel? Let's just go. It doesn't have to be on this list. It could be anybody. All right. Who do you feel is a gimme to make it in doubles or singles?
In singles, I'm just going to throw Matt Guy out there.
Yeah, it feels like
I think
he would
eventually. he's due. He's just got to put it together in the finals.
And to me, it's shocking because in round limited, you figure Matt Guy, because he's so into it mentally.
Yeah, you would think he would never miss a bag.
You just 10 rounds. Like, fuck, I watch him beat Ghost 11.5 with air mails.
Yeah.
You think that he would win it. So, I think that's a good call. Doubles team. Who's a team that you think that you would be surprised if they didn't make it?
If they didn't make it, I mean, we already said Gary McGuffin, just because I've been seeing what they've been doing recently, and they've been throwing really well. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else could make that run. Do you have someone in mind?
I was thinking for doubles, I would be a little bit surprised if like Campbell Baldwin didn't qualify.
Yeah, I could see Campbell Baldwin. That's a good pick.
Singles wise, I would be a little surprised if, let's say, a guy like who am I thinking of?
That guy.
I think that, like, Wooten is just like a guy that he has all the talent in the world there, but again, in that round limited. So if you're asking me anybody, it's got to be Trey Birchfield.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I feel like that's a very obvious choice. If it's an individual, whether it's singles or doubles, that just based on how he's playing now, I would be surprised he didn't make it. Jimmy Humans.
Yeah.
I just think he's just playing a very solid, consistent game. I think he's going to be right there.
Yeah. No, I like that.
So.
I mean, out of this group, though, I mean, who do you like for singles?
If we're just going off the list of guys that we just did?
Yeah, the guys that we just threw in there.
All right, let me see here. For singles, I mean, obviously Birchfield's right there. Like I just said.
Yeah. I like Sims a lot in this one.
I like Sims. I've said this before, and because it's in round limited, and I feel like if he can just go in with the mentality where I'm just gonna play smart and go for the hole, people forget how good Eddie Grindersleeve is.
Yeah.
You ask any of those 4 players from Texas, 3 of them are probably telling you that Eddie's the best player out of all of them.
Yeah.
So out of this group, if I'm making a prediction of who's going to win singles, I'll take a if you want to call it a dark horse, I'll take the home field advantage. Give me Grindersleeve to win it all.
I like
we'll
it.
See.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Birchfield wins, I think he's going to qualify eventually, but let's go. I'll take a shot in the dark.
The one that I'm not going to be surprised at all, just because he's going to be in his sponsor's backyard, would be EA.
Yeah, that could be too. And again, you're asking me to take a pick out of 30 guys.
Yeah.
I'll take Grindersleeve. I'm a big fan of him. I love his game. He's been a little up and down in singles, but he's made a run a few times. He just has to eliminate that one big round. That's kind of what killed him. But again, he can lock in better than anybody.
Yeah.
So if he just locks in singles and he plays his game, Grindersleeve could easily win.
I'll tell you what, if EA and Ryan Smith go to 3 more of these after this one, I think they're a shoe-in.
They could be.
I think they're going to put it together and win.
They could
win
this one.
I
We wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Any of these teams could win it. All right, so
bag review time.
Yep. The bag review is brought to you by Bags Board, the maker of the original Cornhole bag backpack, now offering a build your own feature that has over 10,000 combinations to choose from. Need a patches to go on that sweet ass bag? Visit bagsboard.com. Bagsboard.com. Grab yours today. Okay, so today we have one of our favorite logos, in the Cornhole game. One of our favorite people, Russell Post, started a company called Notorious Bags. You might remember back a few episodes we reviewed 3 or 4 of his other series. These are all non-ACL stamped bags currently. All right, but these are his 3 new series, fresh off the gate. They are available at notoriousbags.com, so make sure you check them out if you're interested after what we're saying.
A great lot of control bags here.
Correct, yeah. It's what I like about it is, again, we like people that go take chances. We like people that try to find unique materials. Mm-hmm. That's what we have pretty much across the board.
And honestly, that you could say that about all of his bags.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Across the board, across his whole spectrum, his whole arsenal, whatever you want to call it, Notorious Bags uses unique materials that have playability. It's not gimmick.
Yeah. Granted, a lot of them are pretty damn stiff when you get them.
Yes.
Guys, just freaking wash them.
Yeah.
Just everyone else washes bags.
Let's talk about that for a second. So if we had one, I guess, criticism of his bags when you first get them, they are very, very stiff. And I think sometimes if you are a player that wants instant gratification, sometimes we get these bags and they already kind of feel broken in. That's not the case with Notorious Bags. You have to throw them, but they do break in fairly quick. Yeah. We're talking a few rounds and this thing was already starting to break down.
Yeah, that's not washing at all. That's just throwing them.
Throw them in the dryer.
But I'm just saying, everyone's so they like you said, instant gratification.
Correct.
If you're that needy and it feels really stiff, wash it in cold water, tumble dry with no heat, and then go throw them. And guess what? They'll feel like every other bag.
Correct. Okay, so let's start with the bag that we actually have on top of our stack, Tenacious. I'll let you take this one because this was your favorite, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. So Tenacious, it's a control bag. So it's got this carpet-esque feel to it. I wouldn't call it carpet though. It's almost like an upholstery feel.
Yeah, it's not. It's not suede. It's not carpet. It's kind of somewhere in between. It's got like a microfiber type feel to it.
But it's smooth. Slow. It's smooth and slow.
Yes.
And a lot of those microfiber ones that we've been feeling have been fast as hell.
And a lot of times what we've said before with especially like that micro suede or microfiber, in humidity will actually speed up. This doesn't.
Yes,
because it's been very humid here recently.
Yeah.
So that's been the one plus is that all these new bags we're getting, we're able to tell how they do in humid conditions.
Yeah. So,
what speed ratings? I'm interested to say.
Yeah.
What are you giving speed rating?
So on the slow side, I'll give it a 4.
Like a 4.5?
Yeah, right around there, 4.5.
Because to me, it's faster than some of the other carpets.
Yeah.
But it's slower than like a player's material.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't know about you, but I was able to get a right to left with it a little bit, but I could not get a left to right at all.
You're not able to get true left to right, then I'm not.
Yeah.
I can throw a wheel shot and then just fix the angle down a little bit, and that's really my cut shot. I don't throw it very often, only if the situation absolutely calls for it, and like I'm up points. I just don't feel comfortable throwing it.
I mean, this was, like I said, the right to left was very minuscule. Like it was not like a carpet bag, but still, I liked the speed of it though. And like we said, this bag, we've only been throwing it a couple times, and it is breaking down very nicely. Yep. I love the squareness of it.
Yes, correct.
And then the fast side on this, it almost feels slide right-esque. I mean, I wouldn't call it slide right because it plays slow.
It's like a tweed. It's like a tweed material.
Yeah.
It's on his other set, Flow. Which is another. If you remember back and you listen back, I think that was Dane's favorite.
Yeah.
It's the slow side of the Flow bag. This is a control bag. There's not a huge speed differential between these.
Yeah.
We'll go like 4.5 on the slow, 5, 6 on the slick.
Yeah, on the slick side.
So again, if you're somebody that likes
the slick side, though, I will say it's great for pushing. Even though it's slower, like it just kind of keeps moving through stuff.
So let's harp on something. Another reason that these bags are great for pushing is because the surface area of these bags, because they're so square.
Yes,
hold that up to the camera.
Look at
so
how square that
it is a
is.
very
nice
squared bag.
Corners.
So one of the popular things right now in the bag world is having that very rounded template, like a Reynolds type template.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, we love that as well. But if you're really trying to maximize surface area to push and you wanted something to grab it, a squared bag like this with something that is a controllable speed is really, really right up that alley.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a very nice bag, and again, the closing seam is nice. There are bags that you feel are going to last for a long time. You never see anyone complaining about, hey, I had my bag's starting to separate along the seam. They take their time making these bags.
Yeah, absolutely.
He puts a little TLC. If you hold it up, you can actually feel the love.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you had a problem with it, Russell's an A+ guy, and he will hook you up and fix whatever. He'll rectify any issue.
So Tenacious, let's go design score.
Design. So you and I were talking earlier. Yeah. One of our favorite just logos in the game. Love Notorious's logo.
I mean, we were talking about it before. So like, I love like Notorious Bags. Obviously, Reynolds logo.
Yeah.
I love Big Daddy.
Yeah, actually, I said that I love Boardmen.
Yeah.
I love it's a cool logo.
Yeah.
But all right, so if you guys could see that are watching from home. Tenacious, so it's no side on the slow side. Couldn't print on it, but fast side, nice blue color to it. Put a sexy ass logo, and then he always has this cool like graffiti style artwork for the letters. It's a little simple, but I'm still gonna go. We'll go 65.
Okay. Oh, okay. I like it a lot more than that. I like the logo. Sometimes simple is clean. I like clean sometimes. I know which bag it is. I love the font that he uses across all the stuff. Again, I'm a big fan of like graffiti art and that font that they use. I'm gonna go with an 85. I like it.
What spoils it for me is I have the Vibe sitting right here in front of me, and it
just it is sexy.
It looks so cool.
Okay, so let's go into
performance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always forget about that.
Yeah, what's your performance on that bag?
I like this one. This was like my second favorite out of the bunch. Again, I'll be interested to throw. I would like to throw this more until it's completely broken down, and then give another score. Right now, I'm gonna give it like a 70.
Okay,
I like it.
I'm staying in the 70s, but I'm going 78.
Okay. Again, it's very stiff out of the box, but again, I like the speeds. I just need to get it more, just so I can know exactly how the bag's gonna feel.
It's 78 with a plus probably 8 differential once this bag gets broken in.
Okay. All right. So the next bag we have is the Impact. Okay. This one broke down surprisingly quick.
It did.
This, out of all of them, this probably broke down the quickest. And I was actually kind of surprised because when I first picked up this bag, it feels like, okay, they're trying to go for some, like, sort of a carpet material, but it's not necessarily carpet. It's more cloth-like.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm almost picking up, like, a kitchen rag.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
It's just like it's like a textured wove material that's not soft like a carpet.
So if you've thrown other Notorious bags, the slick side of this is the slow side of the rhythm bag. It's this different, I don't know.
It almost looks like a linen type feel to it, but it's got it's got these really weird like erratic seams through it. Like there's no like rhyme. Like there's there's no fluidity throughout.
Out of all the bags that we threw, this is the fullest bag. So I can see what his first go through all these bags. They were all faster bags. So he was trying to slow it down, which I think is smart. When you're releasing bags, you want to kind of have something that's going to fit in everybody's wheelhouse.
Yeah,
because if you're not like a dual slick type player, you weren't going to like a lot of the bags initially.
Yeah.
This is a much slower kind of group of bags that he came out with, which I think is smart. Speed ratings. Slow side. Again, it's very similar to the other side. I think this, for me at least, this played just a hair slower.
Yeah.
I'll call this like a 4.
Yeah, I'll call that a 4.
Now, the other side, I'm going to call it like a 7, maybe a 6.
Yeah.
Like 6, 7, 4. I mean, both of them are very similar. Just
Did
different
you feel that the humidity affected that fast side?
Yes.
Because I felt like the fast side almost became the slow side when it was really humid out.
But again, I like this bag. It allows you to do similar things that carpet does. I thought this bag cut better than the other bag.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
You can manipulate either left to right or right to left better with this rather than the Tenacious.
Yeah.
The Tenacious, to me, slid a little truer than what the Impact did.
Yeah, so I was getting this, when I was throwing the Impact, like, it's a very nice bag. I liked it, but it was bouncing.
Yeah.
For me. So, like, it would hit, and I think that's what he's going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is to have one of those bounce bags. Yep. But I'm a carpet player that likes to still run it up the board. Yeah. So this one was bouncing, and then it almost like on the second time it would land, if it was like crooked on that bounce, it was kind of just like cutting and stopping right away for me. That being said, it does do magnificent things if you want it. If you want to play that dirty roll game and stuff, and you could do that with this bag for sure.
And we've talked about it before. If you want a bag that's going to roll or bounce or anything like that, you want to have like the smaller universal fill. That's just gonna, it just plays the best to do that kind of stuff. That's kind of what's in this bag. It's a fuller feeling bag too. So if you're somebody that wants a control bag, maybe something just a hair faster than a lot of the other carpet bags out there, and something without like a super slick side. I mean, Impact's going to be right up your alley.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, design. What are you going to design
for Impact? I'm gonna stay true and just go 65.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like this font quite as much as I like Tenacious. That's just my own personal opinion. I'm gonna go with a 75. I still like it. I like his logo so much, and I like the colors, like the green with the pink.
I like the green. Yeah, I like the green more than the blue.
Like I think his color schemes are so great. Performance wise, what are you going with?
Performance on this one, I'm gonna stay in the 70s, and I'm gonna drop it down to just let's go 75.
Okay, for this one again, I wasn't as big of a fan of the Impact as the Tenacious. Just again, based on my throw style, I'm gonna go with like a 66.
Okay.
All right, that's kind of what I was working out in my head.
Now my disclaimer for the Tenacious though, the reason why I liked it a little more than the Impact, I was surprised, even though the bag was still rigid, how well it still seemed to melt.
Yeah.
Like there were times that like I was just a bag would kind of wrap around, and usually that's the one that sits on the back. And this would just kind of fall back in, and it's a brand new bag. I couldn't believe it. So that's why there's just that little discrepancy.
All right.
Last but not least,
this last bag is called the Vibe.
We got vibes. Good vibes.
Out of all three, this was my favorite. The easiest way to explain this bag is if you've thrown kill shots bags before, you've thrown either, let's say, a 357 or an AR or an RPG, the slow side, that player's material. It's basically the slow side of that, all right? So like that player's type material. And then if you, there's this other bag that's out there that's pretty popular. It's called a Surefire. If you took the slow side of both those bags and matched them, you have the Vibe. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree.
That's the first thing when I'm feeling the bag right off the bat. I just knew, based on the materials and the feel, I was going to like this bag the most. Just because I kind of had an idea of
the speeds reminded me a lot of the friction.
A little bit, yeah, kind of. Yeah, very, very similar too. So again, speed-wise, there's not much variation between the two. We know that players' type material, all right, that type of material changes dramatically in humid weather.
Yeah. In
humid weather, I mean, this thing slows down dramatically. We're going from like a 5 to like a 2. I mean, it slows down big time.
Yeah.
If we're talking about just normal conditions, I'm going to give it a 5, and then the other one 5.5. I mean, there's really not much of a change in this.
No, not at all.
At least in the board conditions I was playing in. But again, I tend to like that player's material feel so much. I never flip the bag over really. I tend to just sit there and roll with this one side. I like it so much.
Yeah, because honestly, I was the same way. I felt like the player's material would just push itself.
You can now. The nice thing is, and now if it's dry conditions, you're inside, no humidity. This bag it's just gonna slide, find the hole, melt in, right?
Yeah.
In humid conditions, this is when this bag can start cutting, rolling, hopping, doing all that funky stuff that you want it to. So in humid conditions, you got to make sure you throw a flat bag if you want it to slide, but you can also be aggressive. You can start really throwing this thing deep and hard at the board because I know. Deep and hard, I know. But yeah, I was a huge fan of this bag. Again, like medium-sized fill in this bag.
Did you feel like... Was it just me that thought that the Impact had different fill than the other two?
A little bit.
Okay.
I thought that had like smaller
universal
fill. This felt more like a slightly medium fill. Out of all the bags, just size-wise, like in thickness, I thought this was like in the middle. I thought if you're going biggest, I thought Impact, and then Vibe, then Tenacious.
Yeah, I agree.
Design score. Now the nice thing about these materials that you can print on both sides. So you have their sweet-ass logo on one side, and then you have Vibe written in that awesome graffiti artwork.
In case you didn't know what the name of the bag was, it's in huge letters.
I love the colors. I love the color scheme he's going with. I love the font that he uses. I'm going with an 88 on the design.
Yeah, I'm going high too. I'm going 85.
Okay. Performance. I like this as it gets broken down. I mean, it really does kind of remind me of like a slower 357 type bag, and people know how big of a fan of it I was. For this one, I'm going to go an 80. I liked it. I might like this more as it continues to break down.
I'm tying this one with the Impact, and I'm going to go 74.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it.
Wait. Do you hear that?
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. We just cued the rap horn. Okay, so reach us at Instagram and Twitter at Big Ass Cornhole.
And Facebook at Big Ass Cornhole Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsors. Visit airwolfathletics.com. Use code BIGASP and you'll get 10% off. And iHeartCornhole.com for the best boards in the game. Code BIGASS10 gets you 10% off.
Bagsboard.com for the sexiest backpack and patches in the game. And blackjackcornhole.com for the sexiest bags around. Code BIGASP can save you 10%. Bang, bang. Apple Podcast reviews. Drop those reviews. 5 stars are always appreciated.
Yeah,
we have
buddy.
a YouTube channel. If you can subscribe to YouTube's where you're actually going to see our beautiful faces for the video of this. So go check out YouTube. Check out Big Ass Cornhole. Subscribe. And you can watch the videos as well as listen to us on the podcast.
Hells yeah.
Be sure to check out harddragpush.com, your one-stop shop for all cornhole content. And make sure on July 31st, mark your calendars. At 3 o'clock p.m., the second annual Sarchione Ford of Waynesburg Cornhole Tournament is happening during the East Sparta Homecoming. The event is held in East Sparta, Ohio, just outside of Canton, Ohio. It's $50 per team. There's no 2 advanced players. There's no 2 pro players. So you're not going to show up and donate your money and get run out of town by 2 pros. All right, so it's going to be pretty fair competition. It's $1,100 in total payouts. Call or message Carl Roush on Facebook. Contact us if you need help registering for the event, and we will certainly point you in the right direction. If all goes to plan, your favorite Ass Brothers are going to be attending the event, and we're going to be providing some streaming action. You can register the day of the event. However, it is recommended to register early. So again, reach out to us or Carl Roush on Facebook to reserve your spot today. They're going to have raffle items. It's going to be up for grabs, including Reynolds bags, Dragon bags, local bags, BG, and more. This is a rain or shine event. All right, indoors, outdoors, doesn't matter the weather. It's all going to be there. Okay.
Heck
the
yeah.
Clash, obviously.
Yeah.
September 23rd? 24th? 25th? 24th and 25th.
24th, yeah.
September 24th and 25th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. If you have not registered, hit up Reggie Reichs. Make sure you register for the event. All the cool kids in town. Big Ass, Dogcast. I even think Ben from Scoreholio might make an appearance. The Jersey guy is going to be there. We're being nice. We call him cool. Some of the best players in the country are going to be there. So if you're looking for a good time, you want a tournament with a minimum of 9 games, check out the Clash. Hit up Reggie Reichs and join us for some fun in September.
Hells yeah.
All right, so we have a big interview up next.
We do.
My
we
palms
do.
are sweating.
Here, hang on.
Oh,
I wanted to show this real quick for everyone. This is the East Sparta. My bad, Carl. I had it on retainer and I forgot to throw it up here. But here's all your info. If you guys care to check it out, and just pause your screen if you need to look at it. It'll be up next week again.
Absolutely,
it's going away.
So make sure you stay tuned for our interview with the ACL Commissioner, Mr. Stacey Moore. Should be a good one.
The Stacey Moore.
The Stacey Moore.
Yes.
The Stacey Moore. Something like that. All right.
Suddenly Seymour?
Suddenly. As always, we hope you throw it straight, and it's nothing but 4-baggers from here on out.
Cornhole it.
Later. Welcome back to the Big Asp Cornhole Podcast, where we are now joined by the ACL Commissioner, Mr. Stacey Moore. Stacey, man, thank you very much for joining us.
What's happening, guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I mean,
we are honored.
Listen, so that just means in Erie, when you gave me your email address, it was the right one. So I was just honored that you actually gave me the right one. So it's a good start.
You thought it was flashbacks.
That was my mistake. That was my mistake. I was being too honest.
Absolutely.
He's got a whole Rolodex of wrong phone numbers for girls. So.
Also, my wife. Wow. So, okay, let's start off easy. Can you walk us through how did this whole freaking thing start? I mean, like, you guys are ginormous now, but obviously there had to be some grassroots efforts in the beginning. So walk us through how you got started and how the whole idea started and happened.
Yeah, really, I was tailgating and playing cornhole kind of just like everyone else. We were doing sponsor activations for another brand that I have called Inside Tailgating. And I just saw people playing cornhole way more seriously than every other tailgating game. Okay. I was like, why is this? But like, what is it about this tailgating game that gets everyone so amped up? And so really I watched it for about 2 years. Okay. And I started talking to a lot of the competitive players. And the more that I looked at the landscape, I just became convinced that, hey, I think this tailgating game has a shot at becoming a legitimate sport. And just set out on a mission to do it.
That's ridiculous.
That is awesome.
You actually kind of answered my next question. It's going to be like, what did you see the potential? Like, what was it about cornhole that you saw the potential in? Was it really just the competitive nature and how serious people took it?
Yeah, it was a combination of the passion that the players had, that the competitive players had. And then the more I got to learn about the strategy that was kind of evolving, I said, okay, this is interesting, and I enjoyed watching it. Okay. Kind of as a casual person who, my strategy was, I have a beer in one hand, I'm trying to hit the board. If I can just keep the bag on the board, I'm doing a good thing, right? But then as I met these competitive players, and I realized, hey, we're putting it at a specific spot around the hole, in the hole. We're blocking, we're airmailing, we're pushing, we're doing all these different types of shots. I said, oh, okay. A lot more to this than I originally thought. And obviously the way I was playing the game, the way I still play the game is very casually. And I just appreciate, the skill level of the top players.
Now, did you ever, when you obviously looking way back, right, when you first started all this stuff, did you ever think that it was going to get to this level? Like, obviously you thought that the game itself was going to grow, but like, things like the bag market, like, did you ever see it like exploding as big as it has, like with how much the bags have changed?
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to try to put rules and policies in place that allowed for creative evolution for the sport. And the bag policy was certainly a key. When I started doing cornhole, we did not start with the bring your own bag policy. That kind of evolved after the first year of me doing the ACL, that I decided to make that move. And one of the reasons is that that was one of the common things that players complained about was they wanted to play with different bags. And so I was kind of like, screw it, you guys just bring your own bags. Okay. And we started out with a very basic policy that has evolved, and then obviously the bag market has just exploded. And it's been fantastic for the sport. It's been fantastic for the ACL and everyone involved in the bag policy.
I'm curious, what do you think like the average cost of like a good set of bags is going for right now, like aftermarket?
Do you know? Do you know?
I've heard some crazy prices out there. I don't.
Yeah.
I've heard some crazy prices about like original game changers being sold for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You know, I know, you know, Ultra has a unique pricing policy, the way that they price their bags. You know, for now, we're kind of watching, we're listening, we're trying to let the bag market shake out in kind of a free way to kind of see what happens. The pricing has certainly been great for us and for the bag manufacturers. So
absolutely.
So we hope everyone keeps on buying them at the current prices. So I'm guessing, you know, a top pro set of bags is going for around $80 a set, upwards of 150 would be my guess.
I think from the site, yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, now if we're talking aftermarket prices, I mean, it gets ridiculous, man. I mean, it's not. I mean,
for select bags.
Well, like for me, like I'm a collector. I like to collect the stuff, and I mean, I've spent probably more than I care to admit, like $400 or $500 on sets of bags that I think are really rare and stuff like that. But I think that's so cool that I don't think a lot of people realize that you guys kind of set that standard, because before that, if you guys had always had a bring your own bag policy, the bag market would not be what it is today.
No, and I think, you know, it's been a combination of supply and demand as well. Has been unique, right? Obviously, a lot of these bag manufacturers started out as mom and pops making bags out of their garage.
Yeah.
Had a limited amount of capital, limited amount of resources, limited amount of equipment. And, you know, the biggest ones have had to rapidly invest and ramp up to be able to keep up with demand. And we're still in the very early stages of what the demand could be, because, right. So like we sell an ACL rec product in Walmart right now, and the number of ACL rec bags that are being sold through Walmart still pales in comparison to kind of the overall high-end bag market where it's at right now. So the more educated and the more players want to play competitively, they're going to demand those ACL Pro stamp bags that these bag manufacturers are making. And so there's still a ton of growth left for all these bag manufacturers.
So let's stick, I guess let's just kind of, since it's here, let's just stick with the bag questions for a minute. You guys, I guess, came under a little bit of scrutiny last year, somewhere during the pandemic, where you guys had launched your new policy, your new bag policy, where you were requiring bags to have either a pro stamp or a comp stamp for people to be allowed to technically be able to use them in future competitions. Now, obviously, you guys made the decision afterwards, after listening to the feedback, I'm assuming, and grandfathering in a lot of sets of bags. Where did that decision come from, and why did you guys ultimately decide that this stamp process was something that you guys felt like needed to happen in order to help the overall game grow?
Yeah, so a couple of things related to that decision. Number one, the bag market was completely out of control. Yeah. It still is to a little bit of a degree.
It is, no, 100%.
But we had no grip on it, and we pretty much created the market. We had no grip on it. The testing and the scrutiny around, you know, what was a legitimate bag, what wasn't, what was out there, what could get on the list, right? It was originally really easy to get on the ACL bag policy list. And we felt like that there were way too many series of bags out there, way too many bag manufacturers. So we wanted to start having some level of control over it.
Can I ask you why? Is that because do you see the ACL eventually becoming like the overall governing body of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think by de facto we are already.
All right, I just wanted to hear you say it.
I don't think there's any question that we're leading the sport, and we set the stage and set the policy for everyone else to follow. I think those facts prove it out. We don't feel a need to say it. It's just the way it is. But you know, every other professional sport that you look at has a level of testing and restrictions on the level of equipment that their professional players use. Okay. So, you know, we did not have that in place. We're still in the really early stages of evolving our testing processes. But we're certainly investing on that front. That revenue that we make off of the bag policy allows us to do that. It allows us to increase the prize pool for pro players. It allows us to become a more healthy organization. And so, one of the blessings and curses about our sport is the fact that anyone can make cornhole equipment in their garage, whether it be a cornhole bag or a cornhole board, right? That's not the same for baseball. It's not the same for golf. It's not the same for a lot of other professional sports. So we have to.
Well known in blacksmithing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every now and then you may see some guy who says, "Oh, I can make better golf clubs than Wilson or Callaway or whoever," right? But for the most part, it's more difficult for people to do that than to make a cornhole board or a cornhole bag. And so, as we talk through that internally, we wrestle with that on a constant basis. What is the right decision for us? What's the right decision for the sport long term? But we definitely think we need a higher level of testing and more restrictions around our equipment as we evolve as a professional sport.
So let me ask you, are you guys ever going to limit the number of approved bags by manufacturers, or is it still going to be open where, hey, if you meet the qualifications for the certain bags, you're welcome to submit it and you'll most likely be approved as long as you pass like our testing type things?
Yeah, I mean, that's currently where we are right now. We're allowing our bag manufacturers to kind of submit whatever they want. We've tried to control it a little bit with how we're doing our pricing, but keep it as a free market. Obviously, beforehand, we did have restrictions on it. So I forget the exact numbers going back, but I think maybe we originally at 5, and then we may went to 7 series per bag manufacturer. And then we changed and we decided to say, okay, instead of putting those firm restrictions on people, let's do it via pricing and see what happens that way. So I think we're still kind of evaluating what's going to be the best long-term approach there.
I think a lot of people, they complain about, sometimes the pricing and things like that, especially from small bag manufacturers. But I think sometimes what they forget is that there's only probably a handful, we'll call it, that are actually successful and are selling a good amount of bags without being stamped. So there's something to equate with having a stamp and being successful, because every year that goes by, more and more people are buying into the ACL product and are participating in ACL events, and you guys keep growing. So I think that's something that people need to remember, is that you guys also have, if you put that ACL stamp on it, people are going to be able to throw their bags in ACL event, and that number is growing every single year.
Right. But so, and just to further touch on kind of a point you were making there, another reason why we created the stamp and we created the different equipment levels is really for communication to the consumer so that they would know what they were buying. So, when we originally started, and we were originally on ESPN, people thought that, oh, I can go to Walmart or I can go to Dick's and I can buy cornhole equipment. And that's the exact same thing that people were playing with on ESPN. And that just wasn't the case. And so one of the ways that we're able to combat that and to educate, kind of the more casual player, is by creating those different equipment levels, being able to communicate to the public what that means. And, if you want to buy ACL Pro level equipment, it's going to be more expensive than buying ACL rec equipment, but it's better quality and better performance, just like if you buy cheap golf clubs versus expensive golf clubs. Yeah. So, that was another big reason to establish these equipment levels the way that we have is so that the public would know what they're buying when they go to the store.
All right, so one more question, we'll get off the bag topic, okay? There's quite the news that came out probably like a month or two ago about a certain patent that came out with a certain bag, okay? Everybody that's listening to the show knows is, the game changer, we'll call it the game changer patent for lack of better terms. You guys have released a new bag policy saying that in some, again, I'm paraphrasing, okay? In some way, shape, or form, you guys are going to be policing that a little bit according to the patent. How, in what degree are you guys going to be policing that? And obviously, you guys are just keeping an eye on that whole situation, correct?
Yeah. So the way that we're going to be policing it's still evolving, and so the initial language that's been sent out to bag manufacturers may change before the final licensing comes through. In fact, I 100% expect that it will change.
Yeah.
As we go back and forth. That patent is obviously, it's been a topic of conversation for years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The bulk
Listen, we
of the
don't get to talk
public,
to you all the time, so I had to ask you. So
right? I mean, the bulk of the public thought that patent didn't have a chance in hell of going through, right? And
listen, I talked to patent lawyers who didn't think it had a chance in hell, but obviously their lawyers did a great job with it. So
yeah, so that's why we don't try. We don't try to get ahead. And the way that we policed it prior to the patent being issued is people that submitted us just a straight copy, game changer like patch bag, whether it was a square, whether it was a circle, whatever it was, right? If it had a patch on it, we were just like, we don't want to mess with it. We don't want to take that legal liability of all cornhole coming back on us. And so, we have every right to accept or not accept a bag, right? Correct. We're not a government agency or anything like that where we have, a certain level of requirements. We can decide which bag we want to approve and which we don't want to approve, regardless, even if it passes all of our standards. It's within our right to decide not to accept a certain series. And so, going into, last season, that was kind of our position. And so obviously Ultra had a 2 friction side bag with their dots. And then we had a couple other bag manufacturers that submitted some similar type of bags to what Ultra was doing.
Yep.
And we allowed those on the bag list. And so, what's going to happen going forward? There's a lot of behind the scenes discussions about if lawsuits are going to happen, what's going to happen, this and that. So I really think it's like, stay tuned and see that drama unfold.
Is it too early to say that, let's say, like you brought up Ultra, right? So let's say a pro player, they love Ultra, they love throwing their Vipers, right? Which had technically had the control dots on the one side. Is it too early to say that they wouldn't be able to throw like a grandfathered bag in that had a stamp?
Well, the bags that were sold this year are 100% grandfathered in for next season.
Okay, so
right. Yeah, I mean those bags are grandfathered under the policy the way they were. I think the question is still, and hopefully we can come to a decision here soon, because we're working hard to do that. Is whether or not Ultra is going to put that style of bag back on the market. Players like it. So we would like to see it on the market.
Okay. And I know, listen, I know it's a tough, obviously, there's a bunch of legal stuff going on behind the scenes, so I wasn't trying to push you too hard. So, but I do appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, I mean, because we have, as for us, we would like to see our bag manufacturers respect other people's intellectual property, and in fact, we try to play and role in that. But how that intellectual property is defined is, varies per interpretation, right? So, and just because you had an innovation, if you don't protect it the way, all cornhole went down the right path, right? They came up with an innovation, they filed a patent, they've invested a lot of money to get that, see it through to fruition, right? And now they're in the position of, they've got honored the patent, and now they have to defend it for it to still hold its merits. And it's, at the end of the day, it's all cornhole's job to defend their patent. It's not our job to defend it. It's all cornhole's job. And then we have to make a decision in terms of what's our legal liability, how does it impact the sport, what do we think is in the best interest of the sport, and those are those are tough behind the scene conversations we're having. It's a lot of people may think it's an easy answer, but it's not. It is incredibly hard.
Absolutely.
It is incredibly hard.
Well,
and
you guys have a lot to lose as well, though. You know what I mean? So you guys have to watch out for your own, self-interest.
We could have legal liability to where, all Cornhole could sue us, Ultra could sue us. Any number of bag manufacturers could end up wanting to file a lawsuit against us if they felt like, we have harmed them in some way.
Yeah.
And so, we're trying to respect that. We're trying to listen to everyone. It's a competitive market, and there's a lot of money at stake around it. Especially around these two friction bags. Obviously, people that know the market here at the high end, have to know that all Cornhole and Ultra are two of our top revenue producing bag manufacturers out there.
I would say probably.
They're both.
I would guess they're probably two of the top three.
But I'll say they're in the top 5. How about that?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's change it up. Let's make it a little bit lighter. At what point did you, like, when you started going through, like when you first started, right, until now? At what point did you think, like, holy shit, we made it?
I think it was when he met us.
That's exactly.
Do you ever remember a time like where you were sitting by yourself and you were looking at everything and you're like, wow, like we really made it?
I mean, one of my most emotional times was when we were first on ESPN2.
Okay.
We had our first linear broadcast at Harris Cherokee. I was so incredibly nervous leading up to it. The 2 months leading in to pull off that broadcast was extremely hectic and stressful, from a financial standpoint, from an execution standpoint. There was so much, we had done the digital broadcast on ESPN3 the year before. Mm-hmm. I was led to believe that there was not going to be a ton of difference between going from digital to a linear television.
I find that hard to believe.
I didn't have experience doing it.
Yeah.
And we were under the gun, and cost a bunch more money. And the production level of that versus what we did on digital the year before was night and day different. So once we got through that process, and I can remember the executive producer coming out of the truck about halfway through the broadcast, and he said to me, he's like, "Do you have any idea what's going on Twitter right now?" I said, "No, I'm just trying to make sure the next player gets up to the court and isn't ever at the bar drinking somewhere, or taking a dump or something." I'm like, I just want these guys to get to the court on time and try to get this broadcast done. And he's like, "You've gone viral on Twitter." He said, "The people up in Bristol are laughing their asses off. They're enjoying it so much." And when that broadcast is over, I definitely broke down and just found I went to the green room by myself and just let it out emotionally. It was just a very special time. And so I think that was not when I thought we made it, but I knew it was a milestone event. I could feel it was a milestone event for us. And then once I got through that, I just went back to work saying, okay, how can we capitalize on this? And what's the next step?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things. So just in being on ESPN in general, first of all, anytime it's on ESPN, Twitter is blowing up, or any social media, because people are seeing it for the first time. And I think people forget, because the cornhole community is so tight knit, like especially on things like on Facebook, like once you get immersed in that world, you think like everyone, all your friends know about it.
Yeah.
But like 99% of the population has no idea what's going on here and how big it is. But I think when people watched on TV and they see the passion that people will have for it, and that there is some strategy, and Trey does such a masterful job of explaining to it and illustrating and painting this picture of exactly what's going on, there's something endearing about the sport. And there's something about like, hey, I did that in my backyard. Like I can do that. There's something great about that. The fact that somebody, you can watch it on ESPN and be like, I can do it better than them. And then you go to your first tournament, and every pro you've ever heard, right? All their stories start the same. Oh, I went to my first event and I thought I was going to kick ass and I got my ass kicked. And then that motivated me, right? So every story starts the same. So it all starts, I'm pretty much now 10 years down the road, some kid is going to be watching it on ESPN for the first time. And then maybe they'll be on our podcast and we're going to interview and be like, I remember watching ESPN the first time and I thought I could do it. I went to my first event. That motivated me to kind of get better. So I think it's crazy. But what I don't think people understand is, can you explain to people a little bit just how much work goes into solidifying these deals with so ESPN's great, right? Awesome. It's a big, huge deal. But to me, when you guys were on CBS for the first time, I don't know. Me and you talked about this. I don't know if you remember in Erie. I remember I congratulated you. I'm like, I don't know if anyone else realizes, but there's a huge difference between being on cable and then being on the main. You guys made it big. When you make it on CBS, that's big time. How much work goes in behind the scenes to make that happen?
Yeah, that was another. I would say, obviously milestone event and emotional event for me was seeing us actually on CBS main network for the first time, and actually pulling that off and the way it looked and just how great it was. I mean, we we put a lot into it. Jeff and Trey may tell the story when I was like, hey, we're on CBS network. You got to have blazers and button downs. and we went and I took them shopping at a men's shop in Erie. And it just so happened that, they had these two really fresh, dope sport coats that I liked, but they only had two of them, but they actually fit Trey and Jeff to a T.
It's meant to be.
And so, so unbelievably, somehow we found a men's store in Erie that's now become their CBS outfit that you see them wearing beforehand. But that's how I knew it was such an important event, and having them, look different than the way they look on ESPN was important to me. And just pulling it off because I wanted them to know that this is at a different level.
Yep.
And by letting them know that, I think it came across in the broadcast.
I agree.
That is, this is the ACL Pro Shootout. It's a different format. It's a different level, different type of excitement. And so it was, incredibly important, from a production standpoint. We have 50 people behind the scenes working on the production, very similar number to pulling off a CBS broadcast. But there, networks have some idiosyncrasies that you have to deal with here and there. But for the most part, we've got great partners that have worked with all the networks. And so, now that we're on 3 networks with NBC on NBC Sports with USA Cornhole, it's time for us to go for the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it just.
I'm trying to think of what the 4th would be.
Well, we got to go to our first. we got to go to our first broadcast in Erie, and I was trying to explain to people on our follow-up episode. If you just watched them on TV, you would never know how much shit is going on in between, every game, every match, and how many people are running around and handling cameras and how they're able to focus. I mean, it's a production for sure. And I mean, it's hats off to you guys. I mean, now you guys make it look easy. I mean, you really do. You guys have been there, done that. It's no big deal now. So but I understood when I found out that you guys were going to be on CBS. I remember thinking, I'm like, Cornhole's finally made it big time. This is a big deal, making it on standard television rather than just cable. I mean,
I remember you texted me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You forwarded me the link. And I'm like,
big time.
All right, that's legit.
I mean, I think when it's really going to settle in with people and people are going to realize it is going to be when we get down to this championship event on September 18th.
Yeah.
We're actually going to play down. So at the Pro Shootout number 8. We're actually going to go ahead and play down to the final matches. So similar to the Super Bowl, we're going to have 2 weeks of odds out there on the championship match. It's going to be shown on CBS Network on 9/18. And so I think that 2 week build up and PR in between Pro Shootout number 8 and the championship event is really going to elevate us to a different level.
Oh yeah. All right. So up to a week ago, you guys had already paid out a total of $2.6 million across to players across all skill sets. First of all, that's pretty impressive stuff, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But secondly, is this only scratching the surface in your mind? Like, I mean, let's think like 5 years down the road. I mean, $2.6 million might be like you might be looking back on that laughing, be like, oh, those were the good, those were the early days.
Those were the early days. Yeah, we certainly. I mean, we've tried to set our, we've set up our business model so that we're primarily driven, by sponsorship revenue, and now hopefully a good level of equipment revenue, more so than taking money, from the players. So, a lot of the money that the players pay in, it's going out, in spades. So, most other cornhole groups are set up to, 100% of their revenue comes from players, right? I would say probably 10% of our revenue comes from players.
Yeah.
And we pay out a ton of money, and we set up a structure that allows different skill levels to be paid out. I grew up as a tennis player. I play competitive tennis. I never.
Stacey, we gotta play some tennis, man.
Okay, is that the next setup? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
that's the next fun random shit. We'll just play some
right.
tennis.
So then like as a 4.5 player, I never made a single dollar playing in competitive tennis tournaments. I was playing for a trophy. I'm playing for pride, right? And so certainly have a big group of cornhole players that enjoy doing that, and especially as you get to the lower skill levels, I think people realize that whatever money you may win prize money wise is okay, but we're trying to set up that professional level, and then that next tier, similar to like a web.com tour for golf or something like that, where our top level players can make a significant amount of money playing the sport, right? I mean, I want to be alive to see the first cornhole player, make $1 million.
So let me branch off there real quick, because that was kind of like where I was kind of going with my next question. 5 years from now, all right, let's put 5 years from now. Obviously, you're living for another 50, so you're good. So 5 years from now, do you see the ACL being in a position to support, let's say, the top 50 players in playing cornhole full time, making a living?
I would love to see that.
Is that a goal for you guys? Like, do you guys have a number in mind of like, hey, we would like X amount of players to be able to make this because based off the amount of payoffs you're making, or is that just if it happens, it happens? That's not our part of our revenue model necessarily.
No, so I mean, we definitely want to have our top pro players being able to play cornhole full time and making a very good living. What that number is, whether it's 50, whether it's 100, whether it's all 256, I'd like to see it be all 256, making a good minimum amount of money that would be, a nice wage to live off of. But we still have a long way to go in terms of our sponsorship revenue, and the level of revenue that we're making off of equipment. I think how rapid our sport develops internationally is going to be a key to how rapidly our prize pools can grow. We just added CBS, so we're in the early stages of seeing what may happen sponsorship wise around that. We don't know whether or not that relationship is going to continue. There's just a lot of unknowns that are beyond our control, where it's hard for me to say for sure. What I do think is that people are going to have a passion for the sport internationally. I think the way that we're going to grow it, we're going to attract a ton of players that are going to want to play competitively. And I hope that translates into a lot more sponsor interest, and a lot more equipment purchases that we're able to make licensing revenue off of that we can put back into prize pools.
Now, I think you nailed it in saying that, you hope that all 256 you guys could pay out so that they can live off of that. But I mean, if you look back just 25 years, and even the PGA, if you look back that far and see those numbers, I mean, most of their revenue from those, like the bottom half of the tier, I mean, that's sponsorship money. So as long as you guys keep go into this right trajectory the way you are, I don't see that ever being an issue.
No, because you'll be setting up your players for
exactly.
success.
You guys are setting them up on the right with just the platform itself for them to be able to get the sponsorship, whether they're on it or not. I mean, you have so many opportunities to be on camera right now, and it's only growing each tournament, that I think in 5 years, I don't think that's a pipe dream at all.
Can I piggyback off that for a second? So you have 256 pro players right now. How important do you think it is for your pro players to be self-marketing and promoting themselves as professional cornhole players and putting their names out there? Like, there are certain players to me that come to mind just because I'm on social media all the time promoting the podcast and I see them all the time. There's certain players that do a fantastic job. If you weren't a huge cornhole loser like myself, you wouldn't know who probably 200 of them are.
Right.
Is that something that you guys as a league stress to them, that it's important in order for them to help them, like they need to kind of self-promote?
Yeah, we certainly encourage them to do that. We certainly have a level of expectation, obviously, with our code of conduct policy. We definitely lecture them. We had Leonard Wheeler came and gave a speech to our pros at the last World Championships on what it meant to be a professional. And that was one of our first steps, to hire an outside speaker, pay for that speaker to come in, so that they don't have to listen to me or Trey all the time, beating him over the head saying, do this in social media, don't do that in social media. If you want to be a part of our PR machine, you need to do X, Y, and Z. COVID obviously impacted everything a lot, and our PR opportunities certainly got impacted in terms of making in-person appearances and that sort of thing. We're coming back out of that now, so hopefully we can get more of our pros in front of cameras and some unique opportunities, similar to what we did with Superhole, and similar to what we just did with the IndyCar drivers around the USA Cornhole event. Is a good way to give our pros some great exposure to people that they might not ever otherwise get introduced to. So from a professional sports standpoint, from a sponsor standpoint, being involved in those events is important. But yeah, having, your social media presence can make you or break you, or it can break you more than make you. It can break you with one post.
It can. So obviously you guys are doing your best to grow in other aspects, right? So it's great to have these cornhole events on CBS and ESPN, all that stuff. Your social media presence is growing. You guys recently announced that Trey Ryder is now the head of your guys' marketing division. One of his first big moves was signing the Girls Throw 2 group. Is that an area that you guys felt like you needed to direct your attention towards right away, is more towards the women's movement? Like, do you feel like there's a lot of room for growth in that area?
Yeah, certainly women have always been a big thing that anytime I've had a chance to speak about what I think is important for our sport, women involvement is critical. Having top women be a face of our sport is important. You've seen that happen in golf. You've seen it happen in tennis. And I think it's going to be vital for us. In fact, I've often said, I think, there'll be a female that'll end up being our highest earner, I believe.
Who is it right now? If you
I'm not sure who it's going to be, but I'm not sure who's, but it's,
Listen, I'll say right now, I think that if you're asking me right now who the best female player is in the world right now, is Cheyenne Renner. I think she is unbelievable. I think she's crazy good. I think she's crazy talented. I think she is the only way she loses right now is if she's having a little bit of an off day. That's nothing to take away from the other female. I just think she's just that talented. I think she's really good.
Oh yeah, I mean Cheyenne. In terms of an actual player, I would probably agree that Cheyenne is the top female performer as a player out there. I think when you talk about marketability and being able to generate revenue from sponsors, probably the best example is you go to tennis and you go to Anna Kournikova. And that's just proof that you don't have to be the best in the sport to make the most money in your division.
Correct. You have to be you have to be well spoken. You have to be
marketable.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right. So you've seen, So I think if our players look at at the tennis pros, if you look at the Federers, Nadals, the Djokovic's, that all have their individual personalities, yet they've been extremely successful from a sponsor standpoint, right? And then on the women's side, you have, obviously Serena Williams, or you go back to
Sharapova. I mean,
Sharapova.
She won like what two majors, and she is still always
she's still very marketable.
Yes, exactly.
She's extremely marketable to this day, and so we certainly expect that we're going to have that level of player. Our players are going to have that kind of opportunity. It's just a matter if they're going to have the level of professionalism and personality. That kind of combination is unique, and some of it can be learned, but a lot of it has to be natural, and it just has to evolve naturally. But you have to be willing to work at it.
We're finding that out as we interview a lot of your pro players. There's some guys that we'll reach out to, and they come on, and we are pleasantly surprised at how well spoken they are and how easy of an interview. And there's other ones it's like pulling teeth, and we try telling them like, this should be just like a normal conversation, you know what I mean? But this needs to be something that becomes natural, because as the sport becomes more popular, these kind of things are going to become regular for them.
Yeah,
or at least we hope so.
And definitely, if you're not natural at it, you got to work at it. And
I mean, you're a natural at it, but do you work at it?
No, I'm not. I mean, my PR guy will tell you the first time I stepped through, I was like, do not effing put me on camera, because I don't have any interest in being on camera at all. Do not put me on.
You're being very good, because we do mark this as explicit, so just letting you know. Yeah, well, you're being very good, though.
Yeah, we do not market this to children just because we don't filter ourselves.
So before we get to the listener questions, one more thing. So are you guys working on, so obviously it's got to be crazy as like the commissioner of this league, right? Where you started from grassroots to now, where you're seeing like things like the world event from this year, right? Where you guys are having, for you guys, is a good problem to have, because you guys keep selling out of everything. Are you guys working on trying to secure larger venues with how fast the events are selling out? And then kind of go piggybacking off that, are there any plans on expanding the pro league or pro division from larger to 256, or do you guys kind of like that number where it's at?
Yeah, so I mean, number one, a lot of our events still aren't selling out, so we have plenty of open events.
Well, it's because we all think that we're advanced players. That's why. That's why we all think we're advanced players. So
yeah, the world championships it was a surprise to us, and we didn't know. Obviously, we knew what our capacity was. We didn't know what the demand was. We were in this Rock Hill facility for the first time last year during COVID. Going into COVID, we did sell out Cleveland, but now, this year coming out of COVID, a lot of our open events haven't sold out.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of hard to read the market and what's going to be kind of critical. And so we certainly did not expect that the pro qualifier would be as popular as it was, and the demand for it is as high as it is.
What do you say to those people that come? Like, listen, I'm sure you guys are pretty good about making it seem like you don't pay attention to what everyone's saying, but I know you guys keep an eye on what everyone's saying, right, on social media. Yeah. What is your response? So let's open it up for a second, right? So all the people that are complaining about, you didn't have enough spots for the pro qualifier, or blah blah blah. What do you say to them? I mean, do you say like, we told you to sign up for platinum and you didn't?
Well, I don't think we quite say it that way, but okay. I mean, I will say that our history does show that we do try to create a structure that rewards those that are most loyal to the ACL.
Okay.
Certainly this was the first year we created the platinum level.
Yeah, put these bags down. They're not even ACL stamped.
I'm not coming back on this podcast.
Not yet. That's true.
That's 100% ACL stamped bags. I'll tell you that. No, it's like I said, it's a balance between the structure that you have and the capacity that you have to have players. So the other way to kind of approach it and the way that one of the ways internally we're talking about approaching it is, what if we just open it up for a certain period of time? We let everyone register that wants to register, and then we go out and make sure, or then we create the structure and we go out and find the space to make sure that we can run the event for everyone that wants to play in it.
You could probably find like an open cornfield that was just mowed
That's
down,
right.
like in the middle of
That
Iowa or
seems like
something.
We may be in the middle of Rock Hill outdoors. Yeah, like you said, playing
listen,
on
people
uneven,
then people couldn't bitch about anything.
right. Playing on
true.
uneven grass, but that's right. I mean, so that's the, that's kind of the catch-22 about our sport. There's only, based on the level of square footage that we had to deal with, there's only so many sets of boards we can put out. There's only so many hours in the time of day. If you're trying to run multiple events for all the different skill level divisions and everything else over a 5-day period, what's the best way to do that? Do you put a restriction on the number of people that can register, and you have everything scheduled so that okay, a tournament's going to start at 2:00 and it's going to end at 6 based on history? XYZ is going to take 4 hours to play, right? We're budgeting a 10 to 12 hour day for our pro qualifier based on the number of players that we have in there right now at maximum capacity. That's a long day in a lot of cornhole.
It is, and listen, if you didn't budget that out, and let's say you guys started 2 hours late, then you'd have a whole group of people complaining that you guys started 2 hours late. It was poorly run, and all this stuff. So like, I listen. I understand some people's frustration that they weren't able to get into it. They wanted to, but listen. Space is a finite thing, and there's only so much you guys can do. And if you really, really wanted it, and you wanted to be pro, and you weren't platinum paid, listen, then like, I don't know what to tell you, but like you could have found your grandmother or somebody local sponsored to somebody. If $100 was a lot to you, reach out to us. Yeah. Shit, if you really wanted to, I'll fucking sponsor you. Yeah. Right. Like if that's really what was coming out.
Right. But keep in mind, and another thing that I feel like that maybe we get sold short on a lot in social media, but something that I feel like that we do a really good job of is we provide multiple paths. So people want to complain or bitch about the pro qualifier at the World Championships. We have several other ways that you can become a pro. You can apply, you can qualify by going to play in open events and finish in the top 24 or whatever, and that speaks for itself. You don't have to be a platinum member to go do that and win your way in to become a pro. And we've got a way that you can qualify as a pro through your conference. So we've given each conference.
Can you explain that? What is the way that they can qualify to be a pro through the conference? Because that was one of their listener questions.
They're just rolling that out. I'm probably not the best one to explain it technically, but there is going to be an event where, depending on the level that you finished in your conference, you're going to be invited to go play in a special event. That is going to allow you to win a pro entry that way. So you don't even have to show up at the World Championships, and you still have an opportunity to become a pro. And so I feel like providing those multiple paths to people, people want to hang their hat on the fact that, hey, you just chose one path. That's your decision.
Yeah.
If you really want to be a pro, you had multiple paths you can go down. It was open to everyone. And, we didn't discriminate based on platinum, to be able to qualify on points or anything else.
Okay. All right. So let's go to some listener questions here. Okay. Brandon Zoll, he wants to know, are there any ideas where nationals are going to be next year, or what states will get to host an open event? Is it going to be based on similar to how it was this year, where wasn't it based off of how many, like, was it memberships sold or?
Yeah. So we were doing, this year we were targeting to get 8 opens in at a minimum. And I believe, I don't know what we ended up hitting, 10 or 12 maybe. Okay. And primarily was based on density within a conference. So we wanted to try to make sure, the highest density conferences got at least one open, and our top conference directors were allowed to run those opens. Okay. The way we're doing our map next year, I believe we've got 16 open events on the schedule, and we're going all across the country. And so we're mapping it out in a much more proactive way. we were quite frankly hampered by COVID this year.
Yeah.
Who wasn't?
And how we could schedule open events, where we could go. I mean, it was crazy time trying to, and so it was difficult to find balance to treat everyone fairly over these past 18 months over COVID, whatever it's been. I lose track, but we did the best we could with the schedule this past year. I think we did a lot of great events, but the schedule next year, assuming that we're wide open, will definitely be in every part of the country next year with open events. Even as far north as Washington State is one of our targets. So
okay.
Nice. All right,
that's cool.
All right, I got the next one up.
Go for it.
I mean, it's a doozy, so all right, you gotta stay with me for a second. It's a long one.
That's a long one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Keith Schaefer. Go ahead. Yeah. Take a sip. All right. So Keith Schaefer wants to know Snickers or Milky Way.
I'm more of a Milky Way guy.
All right, me too.
Good choice.
You're good. You're good.
Nuts don't belong in my candy bars.
Ross Krasinski wants to know, so you guys have kind of set a standard for bags. Are you guys going to make a standard for boards in regards to like where braces are underneath and how the boards are made? Like, I know you guys have started to a little bit doing that with when we had Eric Ryder on, he kind of was starting to explain kind of the finish on the boards. Is that going to be kind of like your new set standard for boards?
Yeah. So our approach to boards is there's only going to be one ACL Pro board in the marketplace at any given time.
Okay.
Okay. Now that Pro board could end up having different finishes on it year to year or even event to event. But there's only going to be one ACL Pro board. All Cornhole is the manufacturer of that board. They've got that locked up. But what we are looking to do is we are looking to setting a standard for ACL competitive.
Okay.
Similar to bags, and we are looking to give licensing out to different board manufacturers to make a competitive board within a certain spec that would be allowed in ACL points events, similar to ACL competitive bags.
Okay.
Other board manufacturers are going to be able to apply for that license. Now, that is going to be a lot more heavily restricted and scrutinized than what we've been doing with the bag policy. So,
okay.
While we currently
when will that take effect?
Hopefully next season.
Okay.
So we're working on finalizing that. But yeah, so we want, one of the biggest complaints that we've gotten from players as it relates to our directors is they want to see directors use higher quality boards.
Okay.
And so, we obviously, when we started out, we've never required our directors to buy our boards to run a tournament.
Yeah.
But right now, that's one of our most common player complaints is the level of quality of the actual cornhole boards that our directors are using.
Okay.
So we want to address that.
Would it be similar to like the bags, like where if let's say a certain guy that's hosting the event, let's say that they're using a certain bag or board manufacturer and they apply, would their boards be grandfathered in as long as the boards that they were using met the current standards of the boards that they're producing?
Yeah, we'll always have, whether it's a year or 2 year kind of grandfather period, anytime we establish these policies, we definitely we don't want to come out and just say, hey, you got to buy all new stuff tomorrow to keep on,
because that'll hinder the growth.
Yeah. But you do have to realize that we are evolving and the sport is evolving.
Okay. Players
have a different level of expectation today than what they had 5 years ago when we started. So but yeah, so it's we try to do a grandfather policy, like I said, just because we don't want to come down and just sledgehammer people.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we got Jimmy Humans asked a question that I think he's dying.
I believe he's an ACL Pro, right?
He is an ACL Pro.
He tries.
He's good. He's good.
But he wants to know about your blackjack strategy. Could you enlighten us?
Yes. So my blackjack strategy probably depends on how conservative or aggressive I am being at the table at that time. I like to think that I can count cards, but I really can't. But I like to act like I do. But basically, I found that my best strategy has been to go on gut feel when I think the deck is in my favor. So I'm kind of like a wannabe card counter. Sometimes I'll push in more than other times, and I'll get lucky, and I'll get it right.
Were you pretty hot at the table that Jimmy was sitting at? Is that why he's asking?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I hope he thinks I was hot.
All right, so let me ask you. So, let's see. Ken Sadie wants to know: are there any plans, or would you entertain the idea of a pre-national / open like analysis show, kind of like a college game day type thing, where you guys break down brackets and potential matchups, and if there was any possible for either like right before the events or just something else for people to watch, because I think one of the common things with cornhole fans that they're just so eager for any content out there, they're willing to get it. So is that like in your guys' plans?
Yeah, so we currently do a show around our ESPN national events with DraftKings.
Okay.
That's a 30-minute kind of lead-in show that has that kind of feel to it. I definitely expect you to see, the more gambling that gets out there, and kind of the more awareness, and the more that we develop our content, we're making, as you mentioned, elevating Trey to the CMO role and some of the content things he's doing. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're investing a ton of money next year into content development. And so I certainly see shows like that on the horizon. I believe Trey's about to release, 3 new shows as we speak. So.
Yeah, I think they just released their article on ACL ACL.com about all the new shows and stuff that are coming out and stuff. So it's exciting stuff. Good deal. All right, and then
I got a question.
Go, please.
All right,
please.
So ACL pros Duncan Clemmer and Brandon Jones, they want to know if you remember the beer garden. Brandon Jones claims that you definitely would not.
I've been to so many different beer gardens with Brandon Jones over the years. That guy goes way
that's
back.
A way to answer.
That guy goes way back.
Brandon Jones remember the beer garden
to the Carolina Cornhole days. So
let's say Logan McFarland. He wants to know, what is your vision for the college side of cornhole, and does the ACL? Do you guys have plans to have any growth in the sport, like in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we've been doing the National College Cornhole Championship for the last several years. Again, we had major growth plans going into the COVID year that weren't able to happen. But coming out of it, we did a mobile marketing tour with Subway prior to COVID. Weren't able to do one last year. We're planning on doing another mobile marketing tour this year. We actually established a board of college students to help us grow the sport as well. And we did that last year, and that's paying big dividends for us. And we've got some pretty exciting partnerships on the horizon on the college front.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I mean, Sean and I went to, we went to college in Erie, PA. We were at Gannon University right there. And tell you what, man, if we had like a cornhole club out there, game over, man. It would have been a freaking blast.
Yeah. So certainly, obviously, I mean, not only college, but high school are important for us. So you can expect some announcements around high school here soon as well.
All right, and then the last question I'm going to ask you is Brandon Zoll. Again, he wants to know, are you guys going to be doing any changes to the digital wallet for next year? Or is that like set in place for an X amount of years, or how is that working out?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely want to continue to evolve the digital wallet and continue to gain adoption around it. I think it makes everything a lot more efficient for players and directors, as well as the ACL. We are going to be, we're looking at the fees associated with it. We're trying to get those fees down.
Okay. And that's what people wanted to hear.
And and certainly like you can expect as a platinum member next year to not have any wallet fees. I'll tease that.
Listen, that's worth $100 right there. Like 3-4. Seriously, that's worth it right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big deal.
So so the problem is the per trans, when you pay out the level of money that we're paying, as you mentioned, the 2.6 million, right? We have a choice: pay out less money and eat the transaction fees, and not charge the players transaction fees, or try to find a different way to get those transaction fees covered. And so, the reason why the wallet was set up the way it was and the way the fee structure was set up the way it was is because we didn't know what the behavior of players was going to be. We didn't know how they were going to deposit money, the frequency with which they were going to take it out, which those two things have a significant impact on the amount of fees that are generated, that we have to cover.
All right, well then
we're gonna one final question.
One last question.
You got another sneaky question in here.
Bud Wilson, he asked if the ACL is gonna consider different board conditions for each national. I think it's along the lines of like maybe do like one national outdoor, maybe have like a fast one, slow one,
Yeah, definitely a hot topic of conversation that we have internally. We talked about doing it this year. We do have the ability, and we are testing. Before we decided on the coding that we wanted to use for this season, we did test a variety of different codings, some faster than others, some slower than others. So we do have that ability to change the board conditions for our national events, which I think could be interesting for sure.
I think
similar to golf, right? You're right.
Yeah.
So similar to golf and how the greens play.
Even tennis. I mean, a lot of people, they look at the Australian Open, the U.S. Open as similar because they're both hard court. But I'll tell you what, man, they're completely different.
The sports are different.
It is completely
right?
different.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so I definitely think that's cool and interesting. It's something I personally am an advocate for. But yeah, we'll just have to see how all that plays out, because especially for our pro events, I believe we're setting up, I think it's 128 sets these days, plus the broadcast court. So, it definitely becomes a real expense if you're talking about doing four different speeds for our national events plus the world championships.
Yeah.
You just change that variable by making them just have one outdoors. Doesn't matter what board you throw then.
Yeah.
It's just going to be all kinds of fun.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we thank you very much for having you on, joining us tonight. I mean, it's been great. It's been something that we've wanted to have happen for a long time. So I was happy to finally meet you in person in Erie. And again, I was very happy that you gave us the real email address. So that was nice of you. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I hope the audience enjoyed it, and appreciate everyone playing the ACL and watching us on TV. And we're going to keep on doing what we do and try to make things bigger and better for you.
Awesome. All right, we'll have you hang on and we'll let the people go here for a second. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.